Welcome to Private Stories, where people discover who they really are.
I never thought I would be the kind of man who writes his life out for strangers. But here I am. My name is Ryan Keller. I am 40. For 14 years I believed I had a steady marriage with my wife Monica. We have 2 children. Liam is 11. Chloe is 9. Our relationship was not perfect. We argued about bills. About schedules. About whose turn it was to handle school meetings. But I never questioned her loyalty. That was the foundation. At least I thought it was. About 7 months ago something shifted. Monica had always been social. But suddenly she was unavailable all the time. Late meetings. Last-minute dinners with coworkers. Weekend retreats to clear her mind. At first I ignored it. I told myself not to become suspicious. I did not want to be the jealous husband checking her every move. Then her phone changed. It used to sit on the kitchen counter. Unlocked. Unbothered. Now it never left her hand. If a message buzzed she turned the screen away. If I glanced in its direction she snapped. Can you respect my privacy? One evening we were sitting in the living room. The television was on but neither of us were watching. I asked her directly. Monica, what is going on with you? You are distant. You are gone all the time. You barely talk to me anymore. She looked at me calmly. Too calmly. I need new experiences, Ryan. Life is short. I am thinking about going out with someone. I laughed. Because that is what you do when something sounds absurd. But her face did not move. You are serious. I do not see why you are making this dramatic, she replied. People explore. You are overreacting. That was the moment something cracked inside me. I did not yell. I did not throw anything. I just sat there. 12 years of shared history suddenly felt unstable. That night I lay awake staring at the ceiling. She slept peacefully beside me. As if she had not just suggested dating other men. The next morning I made a quiet decision. If she was going to treat me like I was imagining things, I would find proof. I began with bank statements. Something I had never monitored closely. I did not know what I expected to see. I found restaurants I had never visited. Hotel reservations during her wellness weekends. Small purchases of expensive gifts. My stomach tightened. Still I did not confront her. Not yet. I called an old friend from college. Ethan. He worked in private investigations now. I explained everything. Are you sure you want to know the truth? He asked. No. But I need to. The following week felt endless. I acted normal at home. Made dinner. Helped with homework. Kissed her goodnight. She hummed to herself while texting. Smiled at her screen. Looked lighter than she had in years. It made me feel invisible. Then Ethan called. I have something. We need to meet. I met him at a quiet coffee shop outside town. He slid a thick envelope across the table. You ready? Just tell me. Inside were photographs. Monica sitting across from a man I did not recognize. Leaning close. Laughing. Hands touching. More photos. Them entering a boutique hotel. Side by side. My pulse roared in my ears. Who is he? Name is Victor Hale. Works in commercial real estate. Married. 2 kids. How long? 4 months at least. They meet regularly. This is not casual. Not casual. Those words followed me home. When I walked into the house, Monica was on the couch scrolling. Feet tucked under her. Comfortable. You are home early, she said. I forced a neutral tone. Thought I would. She did not even look up. I watched her for a long moment. She had no idea I knew. And I decided she would not know. Not yet. Over the next days I gathered everything. Financial transfers. Phone logs from our shared account. Copies of the photos. I felt like I was building a case rather than living a life. One evening at dinner she casually mentioned a weekend trip. Seeing a friend from yoga. Which friend? You do not know her. The lie came too easily. That night after the kids were asleep I tried once more. Are you seeing someone? Her eyes widened for half a second. Then she laughed. You are paranoid. You smother me. That is why I need space. She turned it around so smoothly it almost worked. Almost. But something had changed inside me. I was no longer confused. I was preparing. And when the truth finally came out, it would not be on her terms. After I decided to stay quiet, everything became strategy. I was no longer reacting. I was observing. Monica kept up her routine. Late nights. Carefully chosen outfits. Excuses that sounded rehearsed. She kissed me goodbye every morning. The same lips that smiled in those photographs. I started documenting everything. Credit card transactions. Transfers from our joint savings. Phone records from our shared plan. Patterns began to form. Lunch meetings that lasted 4 hours. Hotel charges during supposed team retreats. Small withdrawals that seemed harmless alone, but added up to thousands. I called Ethan again. Dig deeper. He did. A few days later he met me in his office. Victor is not just seeing your wife. He is married. 2 kids. And this has been going on longer than she admits. How long? Closer to 6 months. They meet twice a week. Mostly during those late work nights. It is serious. Serious. That word again. When I got home Monica was in the kitchen helping Chloe with homework. She looked normal. Calm. Almost cheerful. I stood in the doorway watching her. Trying to reconcile the woman I married with the one in those hotel photos. That night at dinner she mentioned another weekend away. Yoga retreat. Out of town. Which hotel? I asked casually. She hesitated. Then named one. I already knew she was lying. The reservation was somewhere else. Later after the kids were asleep I asked her directly again. Is there someone else? She sighed dramatically. Ryan, you are exhausting. You are paranoid. This is why I need space. You suffocate me. The speed with which she flipped the blame almost impressed me. Almost. I nodded. Fine. She looked surprised that I did not argue. She thought she had regained control. She had no idea I was 10 steps ahead. The next morning I transferred half of our joint savings into a protected account. I met with a lawyer that afternoon. Her name was Claire. Sharp. Direct. Unemotional. After reviewing the evidence she looked at me steadily. You are in a strong position. The photos. The financial trail. The investigator report. If this becomes a custody issue you have leverage. What about the kids? That is where it becomes delicate. If she tries to frame you as unstable or controlling it can complicate things. So you need to stay calm no matter what. Calm. That word felt like a challenge. That evening Monica poured herself a glass of wine. You seem different lately, she said. More distant. Work stress, I replied. She studied me. As if trying to detect what I knew. I gave her nothing. 2 days later Ethan called again. There is more. Victor and Monica have been discussing a future. She has been moving small amounts of money to help him with an investment. My chest tightened. She is stealing from our family. Yes. And if you do not freeze the accounts now, it will continue. That was the moment something hardened inside me. This was no longer just betrayal. It was calculated. I froze the remaining funds. Filed preliminary divorce paperwork. Prepared for confrontation. But I was not going to explode. Not yet. I was going to end this clean. On my terms. The confrontation did not happen the way I once imagined. There was no shouting. No shattered glass. No dramatic exit. It happened on a Tuesday morning. The kids had left for school. The house was quiet. Sunlight through the kitchen window. Monica walked in wearing one of the dresses she saved for special occasions. Probably for him. We need to talk, I said. She rolled her eyes slightly. If this is about space again. I slid the folder across the table. Open it. For a second she did not move. Then she flipped it open. Photos first. Her and Victor at dinner. Hands intertwined. Her leaning across the table smiling. Then the hotel images. Then the bank records. Transfers highlighted. Dates circled. Her face drained of color. Where did you get this? That is not the right question. The right question is why. She closed the folder slowly. Then something shifted. How dare you spy on me? There it was. The pivot. You invaded my privacy. This is insane. You are obsessed. I stayed seated. Calm. You lied. You cheated. You moved money out of our joint account. You planned a future with another man. While sleeping next to me. She stood up. You drove me to this. You are emotionally unavailable. You smother me. You never listen. The words sounded rehearsed. Polished. Like she had practiced them. I already spoke to an attorney, I said. I have filed. Her eyes widened. Filed what? Divorce. The silence that followed was thick. You cannot do that. I can. What about the kids? What about them? You are not taking them from me. I am not taking them. I am protecting them. Her expression shifted again. Anger. Then calculation. I will tell them you are controlling. I will tell them you scared me. Courts believe mothers. That was when I stood up. Before you say another word. You should know something. Victor wife knows. Monica froze. What? I met her. She has copies of your messages. Your plans. The ones where you discussed positioning me as unstable. The confidence drained from her posture. You talked about coaching the kids. About painting me as aggressive. She tried to speak. Nothing came out. This is over, Monica. For once she had no comeback. I walked out of the kitchen. Left her standing there. Later that afternoon I met Victor's wife. Her name was Allison. She was not dramatic. Not hysterical. Just tired. He has done this before, she said quietly. But this time I have proof. Between the two of us we had everything. Financial transfers. Hotel stays. Text exchanges discussing strategy. It was not romance. It was manipulation. Court moved quickly once evidence was filed. Monica attempted her narrative. Controlling husband. Privacy invasion. Emotional suffocation. My attorney presented the timeline. The transactions. The messages where Monica explicitly discussed leveraging the children. Then Allison testified. The judge expression changed. Monica lost credibility in minutes. Temporary custody granted to me. Supervised visitation. When we stepped outside the courthouse, Monica did not look at me. She looked smaller. For weeks after, the house felt hollow. Liam asked. Is Mom mad at you? I knelt down. Sometimes adults make bad choices. That does not mean we stop loving you. Chloe cried one night. Why does Mom not live here? Because we are building something safer. That word stayed with me. Safer. Monica did not stop at first. Social media posts. Vague accusations. Friends messaging me. But facts do not bend easily. The more she pushed, the more unstable she appeared. Then something shifted. Victor left her. Allison finalized her own divorce. Monica called me one evening. I made mistakes. I still love you. Let us fix this. The words felt empty. You are not sorry for what you did. You are sorry it failed. Silence. I want my family back. You chose to destroy it. I hung up. Months passed. The tension eased slowly. Liam joined a soccer league. Chloe started piano lessons. The house grew lighter. One evening Liam looked at me from the back seat. Dad, are you happier? I glanced at him in the mirror. Yes. Why? Because I am not pretending anymore. That was the truth. Monica visits became less frequent. Then irregular. Then absent. Eventually she stopped showing up. She sent one letter. Not dramatic. Not defensive. Apologizing. For lying. For stealing. For trying to weaponize the kids. I did not respond. Some apologies are not meant to restart anything. Only to close a chapter. Years from now my children will understand more. For now they only need stability. I am not the man I was before. I am more careful. More observant. Less naive. But I am also stronger. Monica thought she broke me. What she did was remove illusion. And once illusion is gone, clarity remains. I did not win because she lost. I won because I stayed steady. Because when everything burned, I did not. And that made all the difference. The hardest part was not the court. Not the confrontation. Not even the betrayal. It was the quiet after. The silence in the evenings. When the kids were asleep. When there was no more paperwork to review. No more strategy to plan. Just memory. 14 years is a long time. You do not erase that overnight. There were moments I caught myself remembering small things. The way Monica used to laugh in the kitchen. The way she squeezed my hand during movies. Vacations. Birthdays. Late-night conversations about the future. I had to accept something uncomfortable. Some of it was real. But so was the part of her that chose deception. Both versions existed. And pretending one canceled the other would have been another lie. A few months later I ran into her unexpectedly. A grocery store parking lot. She looked thinner. Tired. Not dramatic. Just worn. We stood there for a moment. How are the kids? They are good. That is good. There was no anger in her voice. No sharp edges. Just distance. I hope they do not hate me one day. I did not answer immediately. They will grow up and form their own understanding. She nodded. I am in therapy. I hope it helps. That was it. No reconciliation. No dramatic goodbye. Just two people who once built something together. Standing in a parking lot. Now strangers. As time passed, I stopped thinking of what happened as destruction. It was exposure. Exposure of cracks that had been forming long before I noticed. I began rebuilding in small ways. Morning routines. Family dinners. Weekend hikes. Consistency. The kids thrived in it. Liam became more confident. Chloe laughed more freely. One evening Chloe asked, "Are we still a family?" I sat beside her. Of course we are. Families change shape. But they do not disappear. That answer felt true. We were different. But not broken. Eventually I started dating again. Slowly. Carefully. Not to replace anything. Not to prove anything. Just to remind myself that connection does not have to come with deception. The first time Liam saw me smile at someone new. He noticed. "You look different, Dad. Better different." That mattered more than anything. I learned something through all of it. Betrayal does not destroy you by itself. What destroys you is denial. The refusal to see what is in front of you. The moment Monica told me she wanted new experiences. That was the fracture. The rest was confirmation. If I had ignored it. If I had convinced myself I was overreacting. I would have lost more than a marriage. I would have lost self-respect. Today our house is quieter. Simpler. More honest. There is no tension in the air. No hidden phones. No secret accounts. Just three people rebuilding trust in the world. Monica exists on the edge of our lives now. Occasional messages. Scheduled visits when she follows through. Sometimes I feel sadness for her. Not because I want her back. But because I watched someone dismantle her own stability chasing something temporary. But that is her lesson. Not mine. Mine was this. Trust is not blind. Love is not silence. And strength is not loud. Strength is staying steady when someone tries to rewrite reality around you. Strength is protecting your children without poisoning them with hate. Strength is walking away without becoming bitter. One night Liam asked me, "Are you glad it happened?" That question stayed with me. No. I am not glad. But I am grateful for who I became because of it. Life is not about avoiding storms. It is about who you are when they pass. And when this storm passed, I was still standing. Stronger. Clearer. Free. Not because I destroyed someone. But because I refused to let myself be destroyed. And that is where this story truly ends. Not in revenge. Not in victory. But in peace. Peace did not arrive all at once. It came quietly. In routines. In laughter that no longer felt forced. In mornings that did not begin with suspicion. A year after the divorce finalized, I realized something subtle. I no longer checked my phone expecting bad news. I no longer replayed arguments in my head. I no longer wondered what she was doing. Indifference had replaced anger. And indifference is freedom. Monica resurfaced briefly one spring afternoon. She requested expanded visitation. Said she had been consistent in therapy. Said she had rebuilt stability. The court scheduled a review. I did not fight it. Not out of forgiveness. But because the kids deserved a mother who tried. During that hearing she did not attack. She did not blame. She did not manipulate. She spoke plainly. I made selfish choices. I hurt my children. I am trying to be better. The judge allowed limited expansion. Structured. gradual. Afterward she approached me. "Thank you for not making this harder." I looked at her carefully. It was never about making it hard. It was about making it safe. She nodded. And for the first time, there was no tension between us. Only distance. The kids adjusted. They were cautious at first, testing whether this version of their mother would stay. Sometimes she did. Sometimes she cancelled. Healing is uneven. But what mattered was this. The foundation in our home no longer shook. Liam grew taller. More observant. One night while helping him with a school project he asked, "Dad, how did you stay calm when everything was crazy?" I thought about it. I was not calm. I was scared. Angry. Hurt. But I chose not to react. I chose to think. He nodded slowly. "I want to be like that." That was when I understood something deeper. My children were not watching the betrayal. They were watching how I handled it. And that shaped them more than the chaos ever could. Chloe once told me, "I feel safe here." 3 simple words. More valuable than any court ruling. Over time I built new connections. Carefully. With awareness. I learned to ask better questions. To notice inconsistencies. To trust patterns rather than promises. But I did not become hardened. I refused to let her betrayal turn me into someone suspicious of everything. That would have been another loss. Years later when Liam graduated middle school, Monica sat 2 rows behind me. We did not sit together. But we both clapped. For a moment our eyes met. Not with love. Not with resentment. Just recognition. We had created these children together. Even if we could not stay together ourselves. That is the complicated truth about endings. They are rarely clean. But they can still be healthy. If you choose maturity over ego. Today when I think back to the night she said she wanted new experiences, I do not feel the same sting. I see it as a crossroads. She chose escape. I chose stability. She chose impulse. I chose responsibility. Both paths had consequences. I cannot control who someone becomes. But I can control who I become in response. That lesson changed me. Not into someone bitter. Into someone aware. Life did not collapse. It reshaped. And in that reshaping I discovered something unexpected. I am capable of rebuilding. Not loudly. Not dramatically. But steadily. Brick by brick. Trust. Routine. Honesty. That is what holds now. And if one day my children ask what really happened, I will not poison them with anger. I will tell them this. Sometimes people break their promises. But that does not mean you break yourself. Sometimes someone walks away from commitment. But that does not mean you abandon your values. Sometimes you lose what you thought was permanent. And you discover you are stronger than you ever knew. That is the ending. Not a perfect one. But a real one. And real is enough. Time did something I did not expect. It softened the sharp edges. Not the memory. But the intensity. There was a period when everything Monica did felt like a personal attack. Even silence. Even absence. Eventually that feeling faded. Her life moved in its own direction. Jobs changed. Apartments changed. Relationships came and went. I stopped tracking it. Not because I stopped caring about my children. But because I stopped needing to measure myself against her choices. That shift was important. Freedom is not winning. It is no longer competing. Liam entered high school. He grew more independent. more analytical. One night he asked, "Do you ever miss her?" The question caught me off guard. "I miss who I thought she was," I answered honestly. "But not who she chose to become." He processed that quietly. That answer mattered. Because it taught him something subtle. You can love a memory without inviting it back. Chloe matured differently. She became protective. Of me. Of her brother. Once when Monica canceled a visit last minute, Chloe shrugged. "It is okay. We are good here." There was no anger in her voice. Only certainty. Certainty is powerful. It means the ground beneath your feet feels stable. I began noticing how much lighter my home felt compared to those final months before everything collapsed. There were no whispered arguments. No closed doors. No tension you could taste in the air. Just structure. Clarity. Respect. I realized something uncomfortable but true. The marriage had been cracking long before the affair. I had ignored small signs. Dismissed inconsistencies. Chalked them up to stress. That is how denial works. It wraps itself in normalcy. But clarity does not blame. It learns. Years later at a parent-teacher conference, Monica and I sat across from each other discussing Liam grades. It felt civil. Almost businesslike. When we left the classroom, she said quietly, "You handled everything better than I expected." I paused. "That is because I stopped reacting to you." She gave a faint smile. "You always did think before you spoke." There was no reconciliation in that exchange. No nostalgia. Just acknowledgement. That sometimes the person you divorce still recognizes parts of you. I drove home that evening thinking about something deeper. Strength is not about overpowering someone. It is about refusing to let chaos dictate your behavior. Monica once believed she could control the narrative. Shift blame. Rewrite perception. But truth has gravity. It settles eventually. What mattered most was that I did not become consumed by proving her wrong. I focused on building something right. As the years continued, the story of the betrayal faded into background detail. It became part of history. Not identity. I dated. I laughed. I traveled with the kids. We created new traditions. Friday movie nights. Sunday morning pancakes. Annual road trips. Small things. But small things build stability. One evening after a long day, Chloe said, "Dad, I am glad you did not scream or break things back then." Why? Because if you had, I would not feel safe now. That sentence hit deeper than any courtroom victory. Children remember energy. They remember tone. Posture. Reactions. They do not remember legal arguments. They remember how the adults made them feel. And I had given them safety. Not perfection. Safety. Years later, when Liam turned 18, he asked one final question about it. If you could go back, would you try harder to save it? I thought for a long moment. No. Because saving something that is already broken by choice is not strength. It is fear. He nodded slowly. That was the last time the subject came up. Life did not end with the divorce. It expanded. Different direction. Different structure. But expanded. Monica became a distant presence. Occasional holiday messages. Brief conversations at milestones. No hostility. No closeness. Just history. And that is enough. Looking back, I understand something clearly. Betrayal tests your ego. It whispers. Fight louder. Expose more. Destroy back. But maturity whispers something else. Build quietly. Protect what matters. Let consequences handle the rest. I chose the second voice. Not because I am extraordinary. Because I wanted my children to inherit steadiness. Not bitterness. In the end, this was never a story about revenge. It was about restraint. It was about a man who could have exploded, but chose structure. Who could have poisoned his children with resentment, but chose protection. Who could have collapsed into self-doubt, but chose clarity. That is the real ending. Not dramatic. Not cinematic. Steady. And sometimes, steady is the strongest ending there is. There is something people do not talk about after betrayal. The quiet rebuilding of self-worth. Not the public strength. Not the courtroom victories. Not the visible outcomes. The internal reconstruction. For a long time I questioned myself. Was I blind? Was I naive? Did I miss obvious signs? Those thoughts surface at night, when the house is silent. But over time I realized something essential. Trusting someone is not stupidity. It is integrity. Her dishonesty did not make my trust foolish. It made her choices dishonest. That distinction matters. If you let betrayal convince you that trusting was weakness, you lose twice. So I chose not to. I remained open, but observant. Years later I met someone. Not dramatic. Not fast. Just steady. We built slowly. No secrecy. No hidden phones. No unexplained absences. The kids watched carefully. Children always watch. One evening Liam said, "She listens." That was his approval. Chloe said, "You look calm around her." That was hers. I did not rush anything. Because I understood now. Rushing is often how cracks begin. Monica heard eventually. Through mutual contacts. She called once. "I heard you are seeing someone." "Yes." Long pause. "I hope she treats you better than I did." There was no sarcasm. No accusation. Just honesty. "I hope so too." And that was the end of that conversation. Time had turned sharp conflict into distant reflection. That is what maturity does. It removes the need to win. I do not hate Monica. I do not admire her either. I see her as someone who made destructive choices. And paid for them. We all pay for our decisions. Some immediately. Some slowly. I paid too. With sleepless nights. With doubt. With the weight of protecting two children from emotional crossfire. But I also gained something. Clarity. Clarity about boundaries. About respect. About what love actually looks like. Love is not intensity. It is consistency. Love is not excitement. It is reliability. Love is not drama. It is safety. That is what I built after everything collapsed. And that is what remained. Years later when the kids were grown. When the story felt distant. Almost like something that happened to someone else. I realized this. The worst day of my marriage was the first day of my independence. Not independence from Monica. Independence from illusion. Illusion that ignoring signs preserves peace. Illusion that silence equals harmony. Illusion that stability can exist without honesty. It cannot. True stability requires truth. Even when truth is painful. If someone had told me years ago that losing my marriage would make me stronger, I would not have believed them. Strength sounds like something loud. Defiant. Aggressive. But the strength I discovered was quiet. It was waking up every day. Making breakfast. Going to work. Attending school meetings. Showing up. Over and over. Consistency builds character. Not drama. Today when I look at my children. Confident. Grounded. Emotionally aware. I know I made the right choices. Not perfect choices. But steady ones. And steady outlasts chaos every time. If there is a lesson in all of this, it is simple. When someone tries to rewrite your reality, do not scream. Document. Prepare. Act with clarity. When someone tries to break your stability, do not collapse. Build stronger foundations. When someone betrays you, do not become betrayal. Remain yourself. Because in the end, you cannot control who walks away. But you can control how you stand afterward. And I stood. That is enough. There is a moment, years later, when the pain no longer feels like pain. It feels like distance. Like looking at an old photograph of yourself and barely recognizing the man in it. I sometimes think about that night on the couch. When Monica said she wanted new experiences. Back then it felt like the end. Now it feels like a turning point. Not because it was dramatic. Because it forced me to choose. React or respond. Explode or think. Chase or release. I chose to respond. To think. To release. That choice shaped everything that followed. Liam once told me during a late-night conversation. Dad, I learned something watching you. What? That calm is power. He did not learn that from a book. He learned it from watching how I handled chaos. Chloe, years later, said something different. You never made us choose sides. That mattered to her. More than any legal outcome. More than any argument won. Children do not need heroes. They need stability. And stability is built in small, repetitive acts. Showing up. Staying composed. Refusing to weaponize love. Monica and I eventually found a kind of quiet coexistence. Not friendship. Not closeness. Just maturity. At Liam graduation we stood on opposite sides of the gym. But we both clapped. At Chloe recital we both sat silently in the audience. There were no arguments. No tension. Time had done what it does best. It reduced intensity. Left only consequence. Monica once said to me in passing. I did not realize what I was risking. That sentence stayed with me. Not because I needed validation. But because it showed growth. Growth does not undo damage. But it explains it. I did not forgive her in some grand emotional moment. Forgiveness happened slowly. It happened when I stopped replaying the betrayal. When I stopped feeling anger at her name. When I could speak about the past without feeling my pulse rise. Forgiveness was not for her. It was for me. Carrying resentment is exhausting. Letting it go is strength. If I could speak to the version of myself who sat numb on that couch years ago, I would tell him this. You are not losing your life. You are losing a version of it. And the version ahead is clearer. It will hurt. You will doubt yourself. You will feel anger you do not recognize. But you will not break. Because your foundation is not built on her. It is built on who you are. That realization is freedom. Today my home is quiet in a different way. Not tense. Peaceful. The kind of peace that comes from honesty. There are no secrets in the air. No hidden messages. No unexplained absences. Just openness. If something feels off, we talk about it. If something hurts, we address it. That is what I learned. Silence protects nothing. Truth, even painful truth, protects everything. This story does not end with revenge. It does not end with humiliation. It does not end with dramatic collapse. It ends with growth. A man who thought his life was falling apart, realizing it was rearranging. A father who feared losing everything, discovering that steadiness holds more than control ever could. A marriage that ended, but a family that survived. Because one person chose not to let chaos define them. In the end, I did not win. I endured. And sometimes endurance is the most powerful victory of all. Endurance changes you. Not into someone colder. Not into someone harder. Into someone clearer. Clarity is different from suspicion. Suspicion assumes the worst. Clarity recognizes patterns. After everything that happened, I did not become a man who checked phones, or questioned every delay, or read hidden meaning into silence. I became a man who paid attention. There is a difference. When something feels wrong, you do not ignore it. You examine it. When someone shifts, you do not panic. You observe. When trust is tested, you respond with boundaries, not explosions. That lesson followed me into every part of my life. At work. In friendships. In love. I stopped overextending myself to keep peace. I stopped apologizing for reasonable concerns. I stopped minimizing my instincts. The night Monica said she wanted new experiences, my instinct told me something was ending. I laughed. Because denial feels safer than confrontation. But instincts rarely lie. Years later, when Liam left for college, he hugged me tightly before getting in the car. You showed me how to handle things when they fall apart. That was worth more than any marriage. Chloe once told me, I am not afraid of conflict. Because I saw that it does not destroy everything. She understood something adults struggle with. Conflict handled well does not break families. Secrets do. Monica and I eventually reached a steady rhythm. Holiday schedules. Graduations. Birthdays. We were not close. But we were functional. One afternoon, while waiting for Chloe's dance recital to begin, Monica turned to me. I used to think excitement was happiness. I looked at her. And now I know peace is better. There was no bitterness in her voice. Just experience. I nodded. Peace is underrated. That was perhaps the most honest exchange we ever had. Time strips ego. Leaves only truth. I no longer replay the betrayal in my head. It does not define me. It informed me. Informed me that love without respect is unstable. That attraction without loyalty is temporary. That intensity without character is dangerous. I learned that character reveals itself under pressure. And when pressure came, I did not collapse. That matters. There are people who think strength is loud. That winning means humiliation of the other person. But I never needed Monica to suffer. Consequences handled that. What I needed was to remain steady. To not become what hurt me. To not let bitterness raise my children. That is the victory. Years from now, when my children tell their own stories, they may not remember details. They will not remember court transcripts, or financial transfers, or legal arguments. They will remember this. Dad stayed calm. Dad protected us. Dad did not tear Mom down. That is legacy. Not perfection. Stability. If someone asked me today whether I would erase the entire experience, I would hesitate. Because pain teaches. And this pain taught me boundaries. Taught me composure. taught me self-respect. It revealed who I was when tested. And I am proud of that version of myself. Not because he was flawless. Because he chose integrity. When you are betrayed, you stand at a crossroads. Become reaction. Or become response. I became response. That choice shaped everything. So this is truly the end. Not with fireworks. Not with final words shouted across a room. But with a man sitting on his porch years later. Watching his children grow. Feeling calm in his own skin. Knowing that when life tried to shake his foundation, he did not let it collapse. And that quiet steadiness is enough. Years pass quietly. You do not notice the exact day the story stops hurting. It just does. One morning you wake up. Make coffee. Hear your children laughing in the next room. And you realize the betrayal is no longer the first thing you think about. It becomes background noise. A chapter. Not the whole book. Liam graduated. Chloe followed. They grew into people who ask direct questions. Who value honesty. Who do not tolerate manipulation. That alone tells me everything. One evening Liam sat with me on the porch. The same porch where I once stared at the sky wondering how my life fell apart. He said, "If someone ever treats me the way Mom treated you, I will walk away calmly." That was the lesson. Not anger. Not revenge. Calm exit. Chloe once added. And I will never lie to someone I claim to love. That was the other lesson. Children learn more from what you model than what you preach. Monica life stabilized in its own way. Smaller apartment. Fewer friends. Quieter presence. She and I eventually spoke without tension. Not about the past. About logistics. About the kids. About schedules. The sharpness was gone. Time had worn it down. One afternoon she said something that stayed with me. I mistook attention for love. I did not respond immediately. Then I said, "Love is boring sometimes. But boring is safe." She nodded. We both understood what that meant. I never wished harm on her. But I never wished to return either. Some doors close for a reason. You do not reopen them to test the hinges. You move forward. I built a life that did not rely on anyone else's approval. Routine. Integrity. Communication. Those became my non-negotiables. If something felt unstable, I addressed it. If something felt dishonest, I confronted it early. No more silent toleration. That is how strength evolves. Not louder. Stronger boundaries. When people ask how I handled it, I tell them something simple. I did not try to win the argument. I tried to win my future. Winning an argument is temporary. Winning your peace is permanent. There were moments I could have humiliated her publicly. Destroyed her reputation. Dragged every detail into the open. I chose restraint. Because my children would inherit that energy. And I wanted them to inherit dignity. Now when I sit alone at night, the silence is not heavy. It is calm. I do not replay betrayal. I do not rehearse arguments. I feel settled. Settled in who I am. That is the real resolution. Not the courtroom. Not the divorce decree. Not the apology letter. The real resolution is internal. Knowing that when tested, you did not betray yourself. That is what remains. If there is one final truth in all of this, it is this. You cannot control someone else's integrity. But you can protect your own. And when everything else collapses, your integrity is what holds. I survived. Not because I fought harder. Because I stayed steady. And steady wins in the long run. That is where the story truly ends. Not in heartbreak. Not in bitterness. In quiet strength. There is something almost strange about reaching the end of a storm. For so long you brace yourself. You anticipate impact. You prepare for the next wave. Then one day you realize. The water is still. No more accusations. No more legal calls. No more tension in your own home. Just life. Simple. Ordinary. Stable. And stability feels different when you have nearly lost it. I began noticing how much I valued small routines. Saturday grocery runs. Helping with late-night projects. Driving in silence with the kids after long days. There was no performance in those moments. No pretending. Just presence. That is something betrayal teaches you. Presence matters. When someone chooses distraction over commitment, you learn the value of attention. I made a promise to myself during the worst of it. If I ever felt distance in a relationship again, I would not ignore it. I would address it calmly. Directly. No more silent tolerance. No more hoping things fix themselves. That promise reshaped how I live. Years later during a family dinner, Liam asked something unexpected. "Dad, do you think everything happens for a reason?" I thought carefully. I do not know if everything happens for a reason. But I know we choose what we do with it. He nodded. That was enough. Chloe once asked something different. Are you proud of how you handled it? That question hit deep. Yes. Not because it was easy. But because I stayed who I am. That is what pride looks like. Not dominance. Not victory. Integrity. Monica eventually rebuilt something resembling normalcy. A steady job. A smaller circle. Less chaos. When we crossed paths at events, there was no anger. Only history. Once she said quietly, "I wish I had understood what I was risking." I did not respond with blame. Some realizations come too late. But they still matter. Time has a way of stripping away ego. Leaving only accountability. I no longer define that chapter as the worst thing that happened to me. It was one of the hardest. But it forced growth. Forced self-reflection. Forced boundaries. If someone reads this looking for revenge, that is not what this story offers. Revenge burns fast. Then leaves emptiness. Stability builds slowly. Then stays. When someone betrays you, you stand at a fork. Chase them. Or rebuild yourself. I chose rebuild. And rebuilding is quieter. It does not trend. It does not impress. But it lasts. Now when I sit outside at night, the air feels light. No weight in my chest. No tension in my jaw. Just calm. The kind of calm that comes from knowing you handled the worst version of your life. And did not become the worst version of yourself. That is the final lesson. Life will test you. Not gently. Not fairly. But it will reveal you. And when everything fell apart, I was revealed as steady. That is enough. There is nothing left to prove. No final twist. No hidden revenge. No dramatic reunion. Just a man. 2 children. A life rebuilt. And a quiet understanding. You can lose a marriage without losing yourself. And that is victory. Looking back now, the strangest part is how ordinary everything feels. No dramatic soundtrack. No constant reminders of what happened. Just mornings. Work. Dinner. Conversations. Normal life. And normal life used to feel boring. Now it feels priceless. There was a time when I thought stability meant predictability. Routine. Comfort. What I learned is that stability is trust. Trust that when someone says they will be home, they will. Trust that when someone promises loyalty, they mean it. Trust that you do not have to second-guess every silence. When that trust breaks, you realize how much energy you were spending holding things together. After the divorce I had more energy. Not because life was easier, but because I was not constantly navigating deception. That energy went into my kids. Into showing up. Parent-teacher nights. Soccer tournaments. Music recitals. I was not distracted. I was present. Years later when Liam moved into his own apartment, he hugged me before closing the door and said, "You showed me how to leave when something is wrong, without losing who I am." That meant everything. Chloe once said something just as powerful. "You never made me feel like love was unsafe." That is the legacy. Not the court victory. Not the evidence folder. The emotional blueprint. Monica eventually found her own version of peace. It was quieter than the life she chased. Less glamorous. Less dramatic. But steady. Once, during a graduation dinner, she said, "I thought excitement was happiness. I did not realize peace is better." I simply nodded. Peace is earned. And it is often earned through pain. If I could summarize everything I learned, it would be this. When betrayal comes, do not let it define your character. Let it refine it. Do not scream louder. Stand firmer. Do not chase the person who left. Strengthen the ground beneath you. Do not let anger raise your children. Let integrity do it. The night she said she wanted new experiences, I felt small. Confused. Shaken. Now I understand. That was the moment I grew. Because growth does not come from comfort. It comes from choosing composure when chaos invites you to explode. There were many chances to explode. I chose composure. There were many chances to retaliate. I chose boundaries. There were many chances to collapse into self-doubt. I chose clarity. That is not heroism. It is discipline. And discipline outlasts emotion. Today my home is filled with laughter. Not forced. Not compensating. Real. There are still hard days. Parenting is never simple. Life is never perfectly smooth. But there is honesty. And honesty removes fear. This story does not end with a grand conclusion. It ends with something quieter. A man who faced betrayal. Who protected his children. Who refused to lose himself. And who built something better from the rubble. Not perfect. Better. And sometimes better is more powerful than perfect. That is the final truth. You can survive betrayal without becoming bitter. You can lose someone without losing yourself. And you can walk away without looking back. That is where this story finally rests. In peace. In clarity. In strength. And that is enough.
Thank you for watching this video to the end. Visit our channel for interesting and intriguing stories.